Okay, guys, we're going to continue our World War II lecture. This will be lecture number 2. Now, just to kind of pick up from where we left off before, when Hitler's in prison for attempting to overthrow the German government in 1923, he writes his book called Mein Kampf, or My Struggles, where he is setting out his plans for what his future government is going to look like and what they're going to do. Now, like I was saying before, it's almost like he's predicting the future when he's writing his book, because all of these things are what he's going to do. We're just not sure it's going to happen when his book is written. Now, the second thing that he talks about within his book is his racial purification. Now, Adolf Hitler happens to live during a time where there is this kind of this theory, this perverted science, that people start saying it's possible that human beings can in fact eliminate all of their weaknesses through genetics. What Adolf Hitler is going to suggest with his racial purification is that the German people are a group of people that are considered to be the master race, what he calls the Aryan race. Now, his thoughts on the Aryan race are ones of almost real fantasy, really, because his idea of the Aryans, or the master race of German people, he says that they have some characteristics about them. He says the Aryan race is, and actually he changes his definition based on what he needs. So one of his definitions of the Aryans is he says they are survivors of the lost city of Atlantis, who have made their way to Europe and settled in Germany thousands of years previous to this. And you can still see their genetic traits in that Aryans are tall and blonde and have blue eyes, and having those traits means that they are destined to rule. Now he, again, like I say, he kind of changes his definition of what makes an Aryan or a descendant of an Aryan to fit whatever he needs. But what he believes is this master race is destined to rule, and any other races are deemed to be inferior and need to either be eliminated in order to purify the world so it can only move forward with the Aryan race, or those other races are deemed to serve the Aryans. Now, Adolf Hitler is going to eventually almost have like a ranking system as far as race is concerned. He has sort of towards the top, he has the British people as one of his preferred races. For whatever reason, he sees some things about the British people that he admires. Same thing with the Nordic people of in Scandinavia and Sweden and Norway. He actually kind of likes them because he believes that they do have Aryan traits. But there, as you go down the list, there are going to be more and more people that fall into the races of what he calls the Untermenschen, or the subhumans. At the bottom of that list are going to be several groups of people, the Jews, the Slavs, and there are going to be others that kind of fall into his group that need to be eliminated. Now, again, when you read his book, you don't really understand what he's suggesting because he never actually writes down that these people need to be that they need to be eliminated on a systematic industrial scale. He just kind of has plans to remove them. Now, again, what's going to happen from Mein Kampf is his plans are going to be warped, and what we're going to see out of it is going to be the death of millions of people that Adolf Hitler and the Nazis deemed to be undesirables. Now, the third thing that Hitler outlines in Mein Kampf is what's called his idea of Lebensraum, or the living space. Now, what the living space is suggesting is that the borders of Germany, as they are described by the Treaty of Versailles, limit the German people. Adolf Hitler believes that the German people are destined to expand into a large land-based empire. Now, he believes that this expansion is going to take place via military conquest. So he's going to almost combine a couple of his ideas in order to justify his military expansion. What he believes is going to, or what he sets out really, is that the German speakers that are trapped within these, what he calls artificial boundaries of Europe, need to be liberated. They need to be brought back into the greater Germany, into the Third Reich. And he'll use the military in order to expand this. Now, one of the things that Hitler does in the 1930s, as Germany is gripped by the Great Depression, is he's going to take enormous amounts of government money to build back the German military, to build them up again to really the level where they were at the beginning of World War I and even beyond. He prepares this massive military, even though the Treaty of Versailles says that the German military must be limited. Now, he has his eyes on his immediate neighbors, saying that, yes, these are German speakers that will be brought back into the Third Reich, but he also outlines in Mein Kampf a much bigger plan. He looks at Western Russia, and he says this is the breadbasket of Europe, the wide, expansive plains of Europe. Now, he even compares it to the Great Plains of the United States that we've talked about in the past. This very open, this very broad, this very flat area with excellent farmland. And Western Russia has some of the best farmland in all of Europe. What Adolf Hitler seems as his prize is he says, this will eventually be a German colony. He wants Western Russia because he says in Western Russia, there's enough land and enough deep soil that it can feed the entire Third Reich. Now, if you kind of look at the map, he's not necessarily wrong here in that, yes, it's an expansive area. It's a huge amount of land. And what he says is we will cultivate that land in order to feed our people, and we will expand using those calories. Now, we're going to talk more a little bit later on about what Hitler calls the useless calorie eaters, his Untermenschen, his subhumans. And Adolf Hitler realizes very early on in his political career that food can be used as a weapon or denying thereof. Now, when Hitler gets out of prison and he has his thoughts written down in his book, if we only had hindsight, we could see that what he has just written down in his book is what's going to take place. When he gets out of prison, he's going to start to set plans into motion for what's going to happen to Europe. Now, again, what we're going to do when I see you later on is we're going to talk about the other fascist states that are going to exist in Italy and in Japan. Now, those are going to be the three fascist states that we're going to be focusing on, but there is one other totalitarian state. We're also going to be looking at what the communists in Russia are doing as well. But keep in mind, the communists in Russia are very different from what the fascists are doing in Germany and in Italy and in Japan. But we will get there at one point.